1. Walk with me through the cellar door.
A storm is coming, Francis.
A portal to a more skeptical world.
Cellar Door Skeptics begins right now. Prepare for the revolution with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna.
Welcome to Cellar Door Skeptics. We're at episode 263. And yes, it's crazy. I can't believe we're this far in. But it's the beginning of the year, and as we committed, we're going to be discussing how we could change society to move away from all these centrist-built politics. And it's kind of funny because the question of the week I specifically picked out to deal with a discussion on centrist, because there's a liberal threaded on Reddit I'm in, and they have a lot of centrists that filter into this forum. But what I wanted to do tonight is take a little bit of a different angle. I wanted to have our good buddy Boyce back on to talk about Andrew Yang, because as everybody knows, he's officially running now for New York mayor, right? And what I wanted to do is kind of talk through why he's doing this, and then actually examine his policies. Did they change? Did they stay the same? And then what can we do to adapt his policies to talk or to go through on a more progressive basis? Because he has a lot of very progressive ideas. Though he still holds that little capitalist bend that he just loves to push. But I think he just wants to redefine capitalism. I think that's what he wants to do, is he wants to redefine what capitalism is. But anyway, so we brought Boyce on. We're going to analyze a lot of Yang stuff tonight, and I want to see what we can do to start pressuring some of the local candidates in the Democratic Party to say, hey, if you want to continue to get our votes, we don't got Trump anymore. So me voting for you is probably going to be a lot harder now if you're not going to support progressive stances. And because Yang came in with a very good mix between the two, I wanted to examine where he's at, what we can do with his ideas, and kind of go from there. But without further ado, let's bring on Buddy the Lumberjack.
Yay! That's
and
me.
That is you. I know. You in person, in color, playing with your belt. You don't even have to wear a belt on the stream, because I don't demand that you have pants on while we podcast.
But if I stand up, you guys, that's not something that anybody needs to see. So I would
agree with that.
It's a courtesy.
The courtesy. And our guest of the night, Boyce, who is officially from Mindful Skeptics, as well as the Trickle Up. And yes, you must use the Trickle Up, otherwise you get some other organization,
yes.
Which is a nonprofit.
Yes. There's a Trickle Up I think it's a poverty nonprofit. That's why I had to buy thetrickleup.com, because they already bought it.
Yes. Because I was looking for it today, and I was like, because the link I have is to the back end of the website, right? And I was looking for the actual link. I kept typing Trickle Up in, and I'm like, man, this is, man, Boyce either changed their tune in the last month, or it's a whole nother, gambit. And I think that's what it is it's a whole new gambit, that they are doing. So
I'd love to buy that from them, but I don't think it's for sale.
I doubt it's for sale, and you probably don't want to pay the money required for it.
No.
I would wager it's definitely more than you want to spend.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but
I'm cheap.
Out of my budget.
Once I get a UBI, maybe I could afford it then.
There you go. Well, I mean, we're kind of getting a UBI to some extent, a one-time UBI. And they are also, with the new thing, if you have children, they are offering you an advance on your child tax credit, which is not UBI, but it kind of is. Like, it's the same concept. You could get rid of child tax credits if we had UBI and other things
right
to go along with it.
Well, either way, the parents get a monthly stipend of tax return every month of $300 for 12 months. So it is a like Fisher Price, my first universal basic income kind of introduction.
Yeah. Which I'll be honest with you, that's exactly what actually inspired me to have you back on, and then to let's have a conversation about, because I know Yang's big thing is UBI, but he's got other things he pushes. I mean, it's just not the only thing.
Mhm.
But I thought it would be good, and that's what reminded me of that. And I was like, hey, we should take another look at Yang, because I think Boyce and I had a pretty good back and forth discussion. I don't know, what was it, like 9 months ago or something like that?
I think it's
maybe a year.
It's longer than that, man. It's been a long year of COVID, man. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, sometimes I don't even remember. Yeah, it's probably a year and a half ago. I bet it is.
Yeah, because I've been on lockdown with my job with COVID, because I do, physical therapy, and I've just been working a lot.
Yeah. So do they have you still going to and from like your clients' houses? You just have to
Yes.
gowned up.
Yep. Gowns, mask, N95s. If they're active COVID patients, have to wear a hood and the gloves and the gown and the booties and the whole 9 yards. And
what about the plague mask?
Yeah, pretty much. It's a huge windshield. It's ridiculous, but it's necessary.
Hey,
I've not got COVID yet, and I got the vaccine, so I did my job right. I didn't make things worse.
Small miracles.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, buddy, tell us real quick about your week. How was your week in a non-winter Wonderland? Because it seems to be warming up in Canada a little bit.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, it really has. It's we were in the deep freeze, but I'm just trying to pull up a quick conversion just to kind of show you the drastic change in temperature that we had, because it was below freezing, and then all of a sudden it wasn't even a Chinook that blew in. And then yesterday we were up at around 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So we've had a lot of our snow melting, and it's not normal for this time of year, but global warming, I guess. Otherwise, I learned a very valuable lesson, and that is to trust my judgment when it comes to addictive apps. Because I downloaded and deleted TikTok within 3 days, because the reason I hadn't downloaded it right away is because I'm like, no, I remember what happened with Vine. I would spend hours where I would just watch for hours. And, I lost half an hour the other night where I was supposed to be getting ready for bed, and I was just going through the videos, looked at the time, and I'm like, you know what? We can't do this. Uninstall. We're done. Because I knew it was coming. I knew it was going to happen. And I still tried it anyways. And that was bad. But yeah, otherwise, things aren't too bad. How's Boyce doing? We haven't seen him in forever.
Well, Michigan is Michigan. But yeah, just with my job and my kids, and now let me think. Since COVID has hit, both my youngest two kids have had surgery. On one torn labrum in a shoulder and a torn labrum in a hip. Been paying off those goddamn bills, Those just keep piling up. But yeah, just staying busy with the website and making content. And we started a new daily show called The Low, making daily news.
Ooh.
Trying to compete with The Hill and the Young Turks, If we can get a sliver of their market, I can make money and actually quit my job someday.
That would probably be nice, eh? You can actually focus exclusively on your
go all in.
Good work and making the world an all-around better place.
Hopefully.
Speaking of a better place, you were a little busy last week too, buddy. You were on another podcast, weren't you?
I was.
Yeah.
That would be the Postmodern Polymath with Chris Watson. I'm drawing a blank on his co-host's name, and I feel terrible about it because he was a really good guy. Liam, right. And we had a fantastic conversation. It was like as long as a lengthier episode of Cellar Door Skeptics. It was about 2 hours, and originally it was only going to be like a 1 hour, but we just got going. And I haven't talked to Watson in years. We realized not since I had my old show going, and it was a lot of fun. We talked a lot. I brought some Canada down there to his little bit of in Tennessee. So we will have the link up in the notes. But Yeah.
And if you want, you could go ahead and post it right on the website to just make it like another episode type thing and just link his show in there. That way, if anybody wants to see it, they can. And I will tell you, fuck the Predators, and you could tell them I said that. So, Chris, if you are watching, fuck the Predators. I don't even like sports ball stuff that much anymore, but I still hate the Predators enough to tell you to go fuck yourself. There you go.
Well, that's
Anyway.
okay. He talks a lot of shit about Detroit, so you're fine.
I know he does. All those damn white boys down in Tennessee, I tell you. Anyway, moving forward. So welcome back to the show, Boyce. It's great to have you on. And so I guess maybe we should do this. Maybe we do a segment now, called Answering Conservative Questions, and we do this every week. Almost every week. I'm pretty good at doing it every week. Not all the time, but pretty good. So why don't we do that first, and then we can get into Yang. That way we can be uninterrupted for Yang, and you can participate in our news segment, which is our little fanciness.
Sounds good to me.
Well, there you go. So tonight we're going to do Answering Conservative Questions, right? And tonight's question came from my lovely Reddit thread. And this came from a centrist who identified as a centrist conservative, I'm guessing. Because he didn't identify as a Republican, but he definitely is on the conservative lean. So his question is, do you agree or disagree with how centrists are being portrayed? Is there a bigger agenda at play here? And let me, I'll read a little bit of kind of what he was.
Could you try again?
Sorry, my Siri just kicked in.
Hey, we got your Siri there.
Damn it, that was weird.
No big deal. So
Let me silence that motherfucker.
what he's asking is what people think of centrism. He says over the last 5 years, and specifically the last 3 to 4 months, discourse on Reddit and other social media in general has become increasingly hostile towards centrist perspectives and centrists in general. Essentially what he's saying is, I don't think that there's a fair description or depiction of centrists, and their core centrism is really just anti-radicalism, and really both ends of the political spectrum have different values, is what he's saying. He says historically the U.S. has had great growth periods under governments that were both centrist but a little bit abstract, a moderate president, and a divided Dem and Republic Congress. Now, he posts a link, and we're not going to go through the link. I'm not going to go through the link because I don't care. Really, the bigger question is, do you agree or disagree with how centrists are being portrayed in the media? And we'll go ahead, Boyce. We'll give you the first crack at the nut.
Give me the bat. I'm hitting a pinata here. First of all, let's talk about the definition of centrists. A centrist in today's market or culture, I guess you'd say, means you want to work with both sides of the aisle, which I think is total horseshit. A centrist today is just a fucking Republican, as far as I'm concerned. So a centrist is a moderate Republican. There's no such thing as a centrist Democrat. You're either for progress or you're not. Shit, or get off the pot, man. It's weak. It's a weak argument to me. Centrists. Oh, the poor centrists. Fuck off. So weak. Poor centrists. Like, that's Joe Biden. He's a fucking Republican. Let's be real.
Yeah.
That's
well,
why.
And you're right. You're right. He's a Republican. Well,
Yeah.
we voted for a Republican, my friend.
Yep.
So
We did.
all right, buddy. What's your take on it, buddy?
Wow, why try to reinvent the wheel when it's already been done? And they did it with cheese after what Boyce said. Damn. I don't disagree at all with Boyce's take. I think centrism is, ironically, I think it's this naive idealist thought that, you know, there's always two sides to the story and then there's the truth. Well, I'm sorry. It isn't always that the truth is between what both sides are saying. Sometimes you're going to have it where one side is right and one side is wrong. And that's it, period, end of story. And I think it's kind of ironic that a lot of these centrist types end up siding with conservatives who are dogmatically opposed to the other side. And we'll sit there and try to gaslight by saying, well, why can't we all just get along? And it's absolute just an attempt at pandering and attempt at negotiating. And it drives me nuts because I see a lot of these centrists posting about how, you know, we see or how, you know, well, why can't we get along just because we have a disagreement of politics? And because it's a complete total lack of ignorance. I think centrism's naivete comes from a complete and total ignorance of what is actually going on with the issues and an inability to delve deeper. I think it's an excuse to try to be conservative without identifying as one and trying to, you know, make friends with all sides. I can get along with conservatives. I do get along with some conservatives on some topics, but when the topics of certain human rights come up, you know, like LGBTQ, trans, the whole cancel culture bullshit comes out, I have absolutely no problem going toe to toe and saying, okay, but you're wrong, and here's why. And it's a lot like the agnostic position, because to be fair, everybody's agnostic. None of us actually know. The closest thing we could get to know is whether or not.
Oh, don't go down that path. I'll argue with you on that. And I'm an atheist.
That's nice. But it's just trying to say, you know, well, we can't know, therefore it doesn't matter. Well, it wouldn't matter if we didn't have one side that was trying to use their position to get what they want and control other people and causing a shit ton of harm. So I think it's a nice idea, but it's horribly naive and incredibly ignorant to what's actually at stake.
All right, fair enough. So,
I want to enter a caveat, though.
All right.
I can't prove there is no creator or gods or whatever. I can just prove your God isn't real, whoever you are. Just show me your text and I'll show you how stupid it is.
Man, we're gonna get into some Side 10 Brugger Kate presuppositionalism here, man. You guys are
but
forcing me to take the Christian pre-proposition crap, and I'm gonna actually argue with you because I don't agree. I don't agree with it. I'm sorry. I can tell you that I don't agree with either of those statements. That everybody's agnostic. I can prove that to you just by talking to people in my family. They know for a fact that their God is real.
Yeah, but you're talking subjective no versus objective no.
It's inconsequential when you talk about agnosticism because agnosticism is a knowledge claim. So, God, you do this every time you take me down a rabbit hole. We're not even talking about religion, folks. Damn it. But okay. But it is. So it's a knowledge claim. They can claim that they have knowledge. It doesn't mean they're right. They can claim, though, that they have knowledge of that. And they can back it up with their set of beliefs and different things. And I've argued, I stop arguing against knowledge claims typically because it's not usually worth the discussion. As you say, it's subjective versus objective versus absolute, right? But a Christian's going to tell you their knowledge claim is absolute. And now we're going to get into this little like straw man circle jerk where they go, well, this God exists and this is because of this, and it says this here and it says it here, and you're gonna go, well, it really doesn't mean anything because you still can't prove it. Well, this proves this. Well, it doesn't, but yes, it does because God says so. And boom, we're done. I just won. If I'm a Christian, I just won because I don't really care about saving your soul. I just care about being right.
Yep. And that caveat is done.
Yeah.
Back to the scripts. Yes.
Yeah. Let's. Moving away from, we try to stay away from religions to some extent on the show. It is a factor because we're all atheists, but it's really it's one of those things. I don't want to turn the people in the audience off if they are, because I accept all beliefs as long as you don't force it on me. That's all I'm
Right.
gonna say.
Yep,
You know.
I agree with that.
Do what you got to do. Just don't come to my house. You definitely don't come to my house. You regret that. I enjoy debating, and we'll sit on my porch with you with a bottle of whiskey, and you can have your sodas or whatever you want. I'll serve you. We'll wear our masks. You sit on one side of my couch. I'll sit on the other. I'll debate you for hours. Hours. Trust me. I mean, hell, I had a debate with Hannah over eggs. I'll have a debate about your God with you.
That wasn't a debate. That was you just sitting there going, "No, eggs are bad, and here's why." And Hannah's like, "I'm not in the mood for this. Bye."
It was a debate. It was kind of a debate until he rage quit. Anyway, all right. So my take on this question, all the way back around, my take on this question is, I agree with the fact that I don't believe people should be identifying as centrists, right? Because I don't really believe that political belief is there. I believe the ideology of centrism and the ideology of slow-moving progressive is a valid ideology. I don't agree that that's how I would run things, but I do agree with the principles behind it. What I don't agree with is that centrism is under attack. Nobody's attacking the individual. We're not actually going after these individuals and saying, you need to become progressive, blah, blah, blah. What we care about is the idea that you want to stall progress to help make the other side feel good about themselves and make them feel included. And I could give you a business example, and this, unfortunately, this has to do with politics too, because if we do run too fast, we will have problems. If we immediately implemented UBI tomorrow, we would have ultimate failure. And you can see that because of what they did last year for COVID when our unemployment system skyrocketed because nobody could go to work. That was an immense failure. Can UBI be implemented? Absolutely. Is it essentially necessary? Absolutely. Can we find the money to pay for it? Absolutely. But we can't run with that idea and run 1,000,000 miles per hour. And in a business sense, and this is my example, is when I want to create change within my organization, especially with using like lean principles or different manufacturing things that we could talk through, right? If I walk in and don't follow a set process that takes me through excruciating detail to get to the end goal, it will fail. It will ultimately fail in some way, shape, or form. Sometimes I'll get lucky, sometimes I won't. So in politics, because people's lives are at stake here, people's wealth is at stake here, people's well-being is at stake here. Centrism is the idea that we could take progress and move it slowly through society. I agree with that. And what we're talking about is we're not attacking the individual that believes or pushes centrism. What we're doing is attacking the idea that nobody in the Democratic Party, for the most part, other than Bernie, Yang, and Elizabeth Warren, have really, really embraced any ideas that move their party 10 years down the road. Everybody else is still living 10 to 20 years in the past or longer if you talk about Biden. Because you can't just elect minorities to your council and think that solves everything. That's not how life works. If you don't listen, it don't change. And we have evidence of that when you go bomb Syria. I mean, why the fuck are we in Syria? But again, now I'm moving past the topic. So the answer to the question is, I disagree. I don't disagree with how centrism is portrayed. What I disagree with here is the fact that what people want to claim as centrism is truly not. It's what Boyce said. It's conservatism hiding, saying, I want to move so slowly that the progress we could be making will take 100 years versus, let's say, 5 to 10 years. That's all.
Well, I would say this too is you don't hear about centrists until Democrats are in charge.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
when Republicans are in charge, they don't give a flying fuck about your centrism. Get over here or we're going to move on without you. They know how to wield power. When the Democrats get in charge, especially with a Joe Biden style, I want to work with everybody, man. F that, man. You got the ball in your court. You got Bernie in charge of the money. Move now. Make things happen now. Act now, beg for forgiveness later, because this is some bullshit. To be a conservative means you don't want things to progress. Conserve things, keep them the way they are. We need
don't think
progress.
you don't want it to progress. I think you want it to progress so slowly that you preserve the benefits of whatever conservative ideology you have at play here.
Yeah, but I mean, the definition of conservatism is to keep things the way they are.
Yep.
Conserve tradition, to be traditional, to keep
Yes.
things the way they are. They don't want to change anything. Tradition. You don't kneel to fucking flag, you fire his ass. That's conservatism, you know, to me, in my opinion.
I would say that's extreme conservatism. And I get your point. Like, you're right. Yes, conservatism is specified to say, hey, we're going to keep where we are at. We'll change very incrementally. I don't agree that they don't ever want to change, because I do think that they have changed. Like, I think they've changed. I think they've had to change because of Trump, too. So, like, I mean, that's a whole different...
Yeah.
Seeing Mitch McConnell back Joe Biden to some extent while Trump was in office, that's change right there, boys. Mitch McConnell, the turtle, would never, ever do that.
I want to point out, though, that Mitch McConnell has since kind of gone back on that. And basically what Mitch McConnell does is look out for Mitch McConnell and trying to keep Mitch McConnell in power as best he can. So it's not so much that he's, changing his position as he's just trying to, not lose his significance, his sense of superiority.
It's a power move.
Yeah, basically. There's nothing progressive about it. It's strictly strategy and trying to make sure that he, doesn't lose what he thinks he deserves to have.
I guess I could see that. I still think there's a change there, even if it's a selfish change. Like, I don't disagree. It can all be for self motives, and maybe his underlying is perseverance. Which, if we look at evolution, all he's doing is showing evolutionary traits, and not willing to concede the fact that he can have those traits and be a more moralistic person, and he just doesn't. He's not a moral person in any way, shape, or form. And I'm not here trying to defend Mitch McConnell, because I obviously abhor the turtle probably just as much as everybody else.
Don't insult turtles like that, man.
Yeah. Moscow Mitch.
They had Teenage Mutant Ninja versions of those, at least.
Well, those were cool. They had cool painting names, so.
Exactly.
Skateboards, man.
All right.
Cowabunga.
Oh, don't get us going down that road, buddy. See, this is the best part about your name being Buddy. I could just say, "Don't go down there, buddy."
Yeah, buddy.
That, buddy. And then I think of South Park and I laugh. All right, so we're not here. We're done. We're done with that. So, moving on. Who is Yang? Right? Who is Yang? What does Yang stand for? What does Yang want to do? So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna give Boyce a couple of minutes, and he's gonna go through, because Boyce, if for those of you who do not know, Boyce worked intimately with the Yang campaign last year and the year before. So it's been 2 years. Damn,
yeah,
we are
2 years,
old.
man.
We are
2 years.
Well, gray. That's how old we getting. Yeah.
It matches my hat.
So Boyce, tell us a little bit about your involvement with the Yang Gang, and tell us a little bit about the Yang Gang movement.
Well, I got involved with it because I was really doing a deep dive on all the policies of all the candidates. And I was a Bernie supporter in 2016, but I didn't agree with the federal jobs guarantee. So I found Andrew Yang's universal basic income to be a little more of a step in the right direction with automation. So I volunteered to live stream Andrew Yang events all around the country, went to all the debates I could make it to, and I dedicated my YouTube channel to support universal basic income. And it's called human-centered capitalism. And he supported many, many, many progressive policies, but the main one that set him apart was universal basic income. Everybody thought he was crazy. He was laughed at on the debate stage, and now they're not laughing, because now that's pretty much their economic recovery packages, miniature installments of stimulus. But yeah, so I've now that he's running for mayor of New York City, I plan on going to June. In June, I'm going to New York to do some more live streaming on the campaign trail, and going to be there for the celebratory lap on June 22nd. And hopefully he can get more people. Like there's a new movement now called the Mayors for Basic Income. And so there's like 20 something mayors around the country so far. And one of them is Mayor Tubbs, who started the first citywide pilot in Stockton, California. A 1-year pilot had come to an end, and they got some great statistics and data. They don't actually quit their jobs and just drink and smoke weed and play Nintendo. Okay, they actually pay their bills. They actually some people were able to pay off some of their credit card debts. They paid for food, and like less than 1% was for cigarettes and booze. So sorry, conservatives, that talking point is stale and moot. Yeah.
And I think even if you take it and scale it on a larger level, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like even if we took that and said we're going to move this countrywide, it's the scalability of the drug use myth is just ridiculous. And let's be frank, if you choose to smoke, it's your choice, right?
Smoke
if you choose to drink, it's your choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's not our business, and those should not be privileges for people that make too much money, right? Because if that's the case, and I'll be very fucking frank about this, and I've said this before, is like if your choice is to buy a $1,200 Rolex watch every day, that's a privilege, right? You're probably not going to get the enjoyment out of a $1,200 Rolex watch that you're going to get out of a cigarette. It's just not going to happen. And so for, what I hate is when people get down on, when they see people on, like very low income and utilizing the government for things, and they're smoking, and you're like, well, why should I give that person anything? Well, what the fuck is it your business what they do with their disposable income? If we want to talk about helping them with childcare and making sure their children are fed and things like that, that's a different discussion.
Yeah.
But they deserve to live as people. Like we don't have free heroin. It's not like you're gonna go out and go, oh, I'm getting a bunch of fucking heroin today. I mean, come on, let's be fucking real.
Which should also be legal.
Well, yes, but that's a different discussion we're not gonna get into.
Sorry.
and I don't think Andrew Yang has pushed that, so it doesn't fit the.
Yes, he has. He wants to 100% decriminalize possession of all drugs. Period. In New York City, he wants to make. So you still can't. You still want to arrest the distributors.
Yep.
That inflict harm on others with these addictive drugs like meth and heroin and whatnot. But possession, no. Purge the jails, get them out, expunge their records, get them back in the workforce if they want to be, and make them employable. How the hell are you going to stay out of jail and have recidivism if you can't get a job?
Because punishment is a deterrent, right?
Not capitalism. I hear Marx is coming through so much more than I hear capitalism coming through his voice.
Well, he's a complicated. I call him a pragmatic humanist. He's like, okay, let's help as many people possible as efficiently as possible, and cut the bullshit. Let's trim the fat without cutting bone. Is one of his new little slogans is let's cut the fat and let's not touch any bone. You can't take off a leg. So we still have to be functional. So that's one of his big things is he wants to make all possession of drugs legal or decriminalized. Instead of arresting you, they put you in, they offer you a rehab like the Singapore model, or the Portugal model. I'm sorry, and then you have legalized all sex work. Again, decreases traffic in the court systems, and it makes it safer for the workers, and decriminalize it. That's 60% of your circuit courts in New York is all drug possession and sex work and violence therefrom.
Yeah, and actually, I don't. Okay, look, I don't actually disagree with any of those points, but again, we could talk about why that's technically not capitalism, because that's not how we define capitalism.
No.
That's not how capitalism is defined in any way, shape, or form.
That's more humanism.
Yeah. Capitalism wants people to get nailed because they want to make money off of it, and that's how they can reduce the amount of taxation they can give to those of us, right?
Yeah, and unfettered capitalism, yes, they want you. A hurricane is good for capitalism, just not good for people.
Yep.
So that's kind of how you look at it. He wants the most humane policies to help people. So that's where I say that he's a pragmatic humanist. Like, the jails are overcrowded. Well, stop putting people in jail. Who's in jail? 40% are for drug users. And I think it's even higher for women, for female inmates. It's mostly drug use and violence, for domestic violence. So it's just where he's at. He's just like, okay, let's take this national campaign and put it in a city system and see if what we can afford to get away with here and make the most difference.
Yep. And that's why I wanted to have the conversation tonight, because I genuinely don't. I think that he talks the capitalism talk, and we could go through some of this later, but I think he talks that talk to bring the centrist people on board. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
I don't agree with him on a few things, but for the most part, like, if he had got the nomination, I would have just gone in on it, right? Like, he is weak on same-sex marriage to some extent. He's
100% legalized everything like that.
He wavered a little bit on his stance on what would be considered marriage versus partnerships and things like that. And he has in the past, now maybe he's changed his tune, and I don't know.
I've never heard it come out of his mouth. He's 100% for human rights across the board.
We'll look it up later. But so some of the things that he talks about, though, is very socialistic and in its endeavor to move in a progressive direction. And so I think it's wrong if we ignore it, not only because of the fact that the underlying principles of what he's talking about are things that we're also arguing for, but because, given the fact that he's younger, he's going to have a longer political career, he has the capital to do it, we should be paying attention to say, how do we get some of his ideologies into other people, and why do we feel he's the extreme? And that's what this article says. He's taking a long shot, right? And this is from 2019.
June 2019. There you go. My bad.
Yeah. So this is I found an older article because I wanted to go back to talk through some of the uprising, the roots of what Yang is, right? Because you and I had that discussion a while ago, where you have to tell me which is better, Yang or Bernie, blah blah blah. We had to have a whole debate about it, right?
Yes.
And the idea though is that Yang is right about so many other things that Bernie is wrong about, that Bernie's not adopting, not pushing, because of the exact opposite reason. So it's weird because Yang tries to tail the capitalists along, all these centrists into his group. Bernie rejects centrists, but doesn't adopt all the progressive policies. Like $15 an hour for everybody doesn't fix everything. Universal basic income will fix things so much faster. Modeling has demonstrated that immensely. Yeah. I'm all for raising minimum wage, don't get me wrong.
Me too. Yep.
Universal basic income fixes some of that. And if you raise minimum wage and provide universal basic income, you can actually essentially not have to give X amount of dollars. You could start shrinking that gap, right? And when you start shrinking that gap, what does that do to the people up top? They still get it, but it has even less of an impact. Yeah. And then fiscally, as a country, we're not bleeding all this extra money based on that. But anyway, so this article talks about kind of where he came from. He had his own nonprofit called Venture for America. As Boyce has pointed out, he spent a lot of his life, building a corporation, then building a nonprofit, selling his stuff, and then essentially becoming a consultant to some extent. And he used the same ideology that Bernie used for micro donations for his campaign. Hey, can you broadcast for me on your YouTube? Can you donate $1 here, $1 there? Can you come to a rally and give visibility to the movement?
Yep.
And that's a marketing technique. And this is, I'll be honest, the part of the reason I chose this is because of this. Like,
awesome.
It's pretty out there. I was like, all right, that's pretty cool. Like, he got excited about hitting 65,000 donations.
Yeah,
so
for a guy with 0 contacts, and he qualified for every debate stage except for the one. Like, That's crazy.
Yep.
And I was one of the first 65,000 donors that put him on that stage too. I was a early adopter, man.
Look at you go.
These fucking memes. Ugh.
Yeah. So this article talks about who he is. It kind of gives a background. I don't know how much time we have to actually spend on that because in reality, like where he came from and where he is today, like so
Two different people.
Yep. And we could talk about there is privilege in the fact that he became very rich from what he did, and he's able to use his wealth to push this agenda. That's a fact.
Well, let's define his wealth. He's worth $1 million.
Yeah, but he's worth a little. He's obviously worth more than that if he's able to finance that stuff too. I mean,
Finance what?
his whole campaign and everything.
He didn't
Like, they
finance his campaign. We did. He donated $2,700 to his own campaign.
All right. So you're saying? So we're gonna go. What did he sell his company for? Let's
He sold that. I can't remember. That wasn't public either. They didn't make that public, but that's how he funded his nonprofit, was from his private sales of his what's that called? It's an education program, an online education app, I guess you'd call it.
Yep.
But yeah, so he sold that Manhattan Prep. That's what it's called. Yeah, he sold that to whoever, and used that money to fund his nonprofit to start. It's a mentoring program for small business owners to get people who are the most affluent to stop going into tech and to stop going into finance and Wall Street, and get them to go into rural America and help build jobs in the middle of the country. You know, the flyover states. So he's worth that's the most he's ever been worth, is 1.2 million.
Yeah. So this pegs him. This pegged him between up to 2.1 million. But
Yeah,
but again,
I call him rich. He's not wealthy. He's rich. He can go broke. You know, wealthy people don't go broke.
Okay, so you're right. He's not on the Amazon level wealthiness.
Huh.
Well, let's be honest though.
Nobody is.
Well, Bill Gates is.
Well, there's a couple.
Yeah, there's some people.
There's
But he's up there in terms of what he makes. He makes more money than some rock stars make. How about that? There you go.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't go that far, but all right.
All right. So the difference is what he does. I mean, he had a school that had a revenue of 11 million just on its own, right? So it's not that he doesn't have money. He knows where the money is. He knows how to spend the money. He knows how to move the money around. He knows how to redonate the money. So whether he personally is that wealthy or not is inconsequential to some extent, because he has the ability to generate the revenue that is needed, right? He's not a dumb guy, man. He's not.
He got 15,000. Yeah, he got $15 million in donations in a quarter. It's not about. It wasn't his money. That's for damn sure. It's a lot of moolah.
but a normal person. You and I are never gonna run a campaign like his. Without somebody kickstarting it. It's going to get kickstarted financially by somebody, or you're going to know somebody that does it.
Well, yeah, he got kickstarted by people writing checks that people he knew in the financial sector, because he's in that circle, you know. Yep. So he got a Kickstarter there.
So when I say that, so fine, maybe he personally himself did not finance it, but through his wealth and his business entrepreneurship. Yeah, he's financed. You and I don't have that opportunity, and that's a fact. And it's okay. I'm not probably as smart as that guy, and I'm okay with that, right? Like I'm doing this instead of what he does. I probably don't even want to do what he's doing, to be perfectly fucking honest.
No way.
And so I'm happy for that side of it. But we cannot downplay that there is some privilege aspect there. There is some way, whether he earned it or not is inconsequential. He has that ability to influence, because you don't get into politics at the level he got into it at for nothing. You and I will never enter that realm at the age he did, unless you become a YouTube superstar. Somehow.
And the only reason he made it is because of Joe Rogan. Let's be honest. Without Joe Rogan's exposure, this campaign would have fizzled out, and he would have made like maybe 2 debate stages at the most. I mean, he really had exponential growth after going on Joe Rogan.
Ugh, I wish we didn't have to say Joe Rogan in a positive light.
Well,
I'm a Joe Rogan fan. I don't agree with all this shit. I think he's silly on a couple things, that's for sure. But I I don't listen to all this shit anymore, but like I used to. But yeah, I like some of
I
his
hate
guests.
Joe Rogan. I think Joe Rogan's an asshole. But
Well,
that
you
doesn't
can be an
mean
asshole.
that doesn't mean he didn't serve a good purpose in this case, right?
Yeah.
And Joe Rogan, in fairness, has had other progressive candidates on his
Heck yeah,
show.
Bernie on, man. Did a great job
Yep.
with Bernie, too. Made him look lovable more.
He did.
Had
And
him
he
smiling,
Milo
laughing.
on, and he allowed Milo to get away with all sorts of shit.
Fucking
So-
Milo.
So Rogan has both
Alex
sides.
Jones.
I will never support Rogan ever in my whole life, but I'm not going to deter the Yang campaign because he was on Rogan and Rogan helped make his campaign. I'm never, whatever. It is what it is. If he was on a Nazi syndicated radio and somehow people were like, hey, did you hear about this guy talking about everything we hate? And then he took off. Yeah, I'm still not going to support Nazi hate radio, but I'm happy that he got the boost he needed. Whatever.
Yeah. I'm thankful.
There you go. That's where God shines down. God's looking out for him.
We were
That's what
blessed.
happens.
We're so blessed.
We're so blessed. Oh my God. Ugh. All right. So we could probably move past this article because that article is a little dated, right?
Yeah.
And
Almost
I
years.
yeah, a couple years. And I did go ahead and I included the link to both his 2020 campaign website as well as his Yang for Mayor website. Both those are in the description. We're not going to go through each of those specifically, other than the fact that I want to go through his policies, right? So we talked about, who is Andrew Yang, because that's extremely important to understand who Andrew Yang is, right? Now we have to talk about what are his policies, because I think a lot of us know the main policy, but do we know everything about Andrew Yang, and is there other policies that we can adopt? Because that's my biggest point is, if we're going to talk about how do we get from where we are today in this conservative Democrat hellhole that we live in, and how do we get other Democrats to adopt more progressive policies? Because again, if it takes 10 to 20 years, that's centrism taking us forever to get to the end goal. But if that's what we have to do right now, that's what we're going to do. And I'm saying is, before we go to an all-out war on all the Democrats and Republicans, let's talk about how we can start infusing and forcing other Democrats to do what we need them to do positively. So
And that's the wrong website.
Well, that's his 2020 website.
Aren't you trying to go for the Yang for New York?
Are they going to be the same?
No. Those policies don't even apply to New York City. It's called yangforny.com.
All right.
Yeah, he doesn't have a freedom dividend in his Yang for New York.
No, and I agree with you on that. And like I said, our goal is to kind of go through and find out what are the policies that we want to take. Because I don't think just his new policies are what we take, into a collective discussion here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what we need to do is say, hey, he had a larger goal. He just didn't win the presidency.
Right.
So
yeah, for sure.
we're screwed in that aspect of getting his actual policies on the table. But I don't think what we do is scale back. I don't think as a community we scale back and say, okay, we're going to only look at what we can do for the city.
Mm-hmm.
We want to still look what we want to do on a global scale. Now, maybe some of these fit. I guess I'm not as worried about the cash relief and COVID recovery. Like, I'll probably agree 100% with him on that. Like, I don't know. Right? This is
I can give you a short and skinny on it, okay? Because I've read all this stuff. So, the cash and COVID recovery is cash relief. There's no way they can afford a universal basic income in New York City's 5 boroughs. That's too much money. They don't have it in their budget. He's dedicated $1 billion of their budget taken from the police department. Yes. And give it to the lowest 500,000 poorest people in New York City and give them $2,000 on average from the city directly. And that's the start. And then he wants to get more altruism involvement and see if he can get like the dude from Twitter to donate some money again, pretty much. And Wall Street or whomever, but the idea is it's like he wants to do what they're doing in Alaska with the oil checks, and do the same thing in New York City with the city check and say, okay, the lowest 500,000, 500,000 people will get an average around $2,000 a year, not a monthly installment. I'm not sure. It doesn't really say if it's monthly installments in there either, but it just says a yearly stipend to help curb some poverty and homelessness and hunger, the whole 9 yards. Yep. And then the COVID recovery part is like, we need to be a leader in COVID recovery by getting the pandemic under control and open our schools. I don't agree with him on the schools either. He's in too big of a rush.
Well, yeah. And that's, yep. And because I think the science is out on whether moving people back into schools is the positive thing. I mean, in Michigan, we're in school. So, I mean.
Kind of.
Well, at least on the elementary and middle school and high school side, we are. All my damn kids go to school every day. So.
No, my girlfriend's school where she works at has had all their staff getting quarantined, and they had to go back to remote learning for 2 or 3 weeks because all their staff had to be quarantined. It's still not really there because they still have so many cases in Michigan, but it's curbing.
We still opened up.
My wife has had to do a few quarantines, and she's a teacher, so
yeah.
I don't agree with us going back to in-person learning either. I will tell you the reason people like it is because it takes the burden off the parents.
Yeah, I get it, but
it doesn't.
They should not go back until everyone's been inoculated.
Yeah.
Then go back. That's my thoughts. That's why I don't agree with them on that necessarily.
Well, and that's the funny thing is so let's talk about that for a second. Okay, so let's talk about that because I agree with you that we shouldn't go back. But why is he pushing us to go back? Because we don't have the infrastructure at home to help people learn. We don't have the ability to allow people to help their children learn because we're as a society, we go, here you go, train my kids. And they come home and tell me things and I'll either retrain them because I don't like, your liberalist garbage or, or I'll correct, give my input and move on. Like my one son struggled with math. Him and I had to do math together almost every night for a while. Not every parent does that. Now think about it. If your kids are all at home, they don't learn as well online. I get it. But at some point, this is a new thing. Like, this is not like, the pandemic happened is not something that we've had happen in so many years that we've had. Like, this is an extreme circumstance.
I think the main point he tries to make is that I kind of agree with, but I still say it is what it is. We can make this up. But he says that remote learning punishes the poorest kids the most. So the education gap gets bigger. The rich kids have access to the internet, yada, yada, yada. And I understand that point, but it's not safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So putting them at risk is not the answer to put them at risk.
Yeah. I don't like it either way. It's not a good idea to me.
Yeah. Why are we not providing government-based internet services?
Exactly.
And putting them in everybody's home and say, oh, hey, guess what? You're all unemployed. Oh, you're going to work on a 4-man team. You guys can all quarantine, blah, blah, blah. You can do all the sorts of things. And, we're going to pay you $100,000 a year. Can you imagine somebody getting paid $100,000 a year to start running cable lines throughout fucking New York City? Like, I would sign up in a heartbeat. Be like, I don't make $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Send me there. I'll do that. Yeah. Keith will leave his little hidey hole in Canada and come join us. But yeah. I get his point, and I don't disagree with him in the aspect of the theory behind it. And the problem is if we had a presidential or a federal government that actually cared about that, they wouldn't be saying you're all going to get a vaccine because we just want to push you back into school. They'd be saying, how are we going to roll out and put plans in place for a better sustainable internet everywhere? Like Elon Musk is fucking launching satellites and offering people free fucking satellite service in rural areas.
Starlink.
Yeah.
The government should double down on that. Yeah?
Yeah.
I've looked into it.
I don't qualify because of where I live.
Yeah, not me neither, unfortunately.
But he owns a cabin up north, and his cabin is he's now submitted his application and everything. And it's like, okay, look, that billionaire is doing this shit, and you obviously know he's not doing it for good faith with the people. He's a capitalist at heart.
Yeah, but I think he's approaching this kind of like Edison when he goes to Thomas Edison didn't take a patent stipend, a fee. He waived his royalties off the electric light off the light bulbs. He said everyone deserves lights.
Mm-hmm.
I think Elon Musk might be leaning that way because he don't need per se the money. He needs it to fund more shit he's gonna do. Fucking grow a colony on Mars or some shit, right? All the rich people can
launch more cars into space. Yeah.
Yes. Talk about a wasteful endeavor. And dig a boring hole 1 mile long under LA to prove a point. But I could see him maybe not possibly he'll probably capitalize on what am I talking about? Bullshit. Anyway.
He's going to. But you're right.
And he's good.
Could
Fuck
he
that.
could he not do that? And where is our government in saying why aren't we partnering? We're already giving that cocksucker how many free dollars in taxes.
Grant
Maybe
money
he should
too.
give back.
And grant money for his programs for his R&D.
Yes, I know.
Yes.
And we're not going to make anything off it. It's
Right.
insane.
We the people should own that patent because we financed it.
Yes.
Just like a drug company.
Yeah, and we should immediately be launching satellites. And I'll tell you what, if the government said, "Hey, we're going to raise your taxes another 3%, but all of that's going to go so everybody gets internet for all,"
sign me up.
The world, man. Go ahead, do it.
Okay, Lil Wayne. It's Lil Wayne face. I'm a fan. But yeah, so if you had universal access to Wi-Fi, you could do remote learning and it won't be as punishing to the younger or to the poorest people. But that's the way it is right now. I think that's why he's pushing to get people back to school, and he's trying to get elected. Let's be real.
All right, yeah, and there's that.
He's trying to get elected. So that's a popular stance to take.
It is, and that's the sad thing. That's the whole issue with I always have with politics is there's the capitalist coming back out, right? He's just not doing it for money. He's now doing it because he wants to be elected.
That's the politician. That's not capital. That's politicianing right there, buddy.
I think they're one and the same to some point, but
then Bernie's a capitalist because he's a politician. That doesn't make any sense. But I mean, not really.
No,
not his policies. Let's put it that way.
So most of his policies are not. No,
right. Just on
but
principle.
neither are Yang's. Most of Yang's policies are now, except for sending kids back to school, because instead of fixing the problem, we're going to put a Band-Aid on it. That is capitalism, because if we could stop the bleeding of money, we're going to do that instead of actually just saying we're going to spend $20 to $30 million and outfit New York with everybody gets a Google Chromebook and everybody gets a gets
a remote card.
Yep. And everybody gets universal basic income, so they don't sell their fucking Chromebook for food, because that's a thing too, right?
Yeah,
I mean, and we got to acknowledge that that's a reality of life, is that if you can't pay your bills and you can't pay to put food on the table for your kid, if you're given a Chromebook, are you gonna sell the damn thing so that you can feed your kid? And is it wrong that you do that?
Hell no, it ain't, man. There's no more wrong than stealing fucking food when you're hungry.
Yep.
Fuck that shit.
Yep.
We have too much money here, man. Don't give me these excuses, people. That's weak.
Yeah. And that's the same thing as, like, we had in Michigan, there was that restaurant in Muskegon that handed out free meals every day. And now they're going bankrupt.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's what happens when you hand out free meals. And it's like, it's sad that that community restaurant is going bankrupt. Completely.
Yeah.
And so, like, there was a rally in Muskegon to try and bring food money into that organization. It's like, well, where the fuck is our government? Where is Granholm? Where is anybody saying?
Where's the PPP loans?
Yeah. Where's anybody going, hey, they did a good thing and they can demonstrate and prove how much money they spent? Why are we not helping that company out?
Write them off. And by the way, you said Granholm, bro.
No, I said Whitmer. Did I say Granholm? I meant
Granholm.
I'm sorry. It's a bad habit.
Old school.
Yeah, I know. I've been talking about Granholm since I've been a kid. So.
Well, we got a Canadian in here, so she's likely, she's the Canadian governor. Granholm is Canadian, just so you guys know.
I know. I'm waiting to see if he's
Buddy had
Buddy's just kind of looking at us like he's crazy.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Anyway. Good on you.
So let's go back to the policies.
Yes.
All right. So let's go back to a human-centered economy, because this discussions this fuck off. This discussion right here is kind of part of when we go back to his 2020 campaign, where essentially he's talking about universal basic income, and he calls it something different. He does not actually call it the universal basic income per se, right? Like that's not really what he's getting at.
Because it's not universal. That's why you can't call it that.
Yes.
He just calls it a basic income project.
Yes.
Not in this section, though.
No, not in that section.
Yeah.
But the idea, like I said, the idea is there of what it's going to, right?
Yeah. It's the groundwork.
So what is this all about, Boyce?
Well, if you scroll to the very bottom, it kind of gets to two more sections. And it talks about how they have to, again, recover from the pandemic, reopen schools. And then you go down there, it goes to the basic income for New York City, about giving 500,000 people a basic an income. It goes back to that, build a more human-centered economy. But it's the human-centered economy is like the umbrella term for all the other plans, plans to help with startup companies, to help with get the arts back open, to get the Broadway back open with safely, because that they're $60 million or $60 billion worth of tourism they're missing out on. That's capital they're missing out on to fund their programs, and now he's putting pressure on de Blasio on the way out, saying, hey, on Memorial Day weekend, which is before de Blasio's out, he's saying New York should make all city passes, the MTA, free for a week, and say we're open for business if you get the vaccine out. If they make all these parameters, right? Like get the vaccines out and and the rates are down, boom, let's open for business, with some masks still required, but they're going to be open. So he's trying to say, let's do everything we can to give people reason to come back to the city, generate jobs, generate income, and improve everybody's lives. But yeah, just talking about just not living paycheck to paycheck and stuff like that again.
Yeah. And in his past, the universal basic income that he, toted about is essentially the $1,000 for everybody. And here's where I go. So as I was doing research on other programs, this guy's came up, and his name is Eric Olin Wright, right? He was born in 1947, and he passed away in 2019. And he's an American analytical Marxist sociologist and educator who specializes in social stratification and egalitarian alternative futures to capitalism, right? But
what's his name again? Eric something Wright, right? What was that?
Yep, Eric with a K, Olin Wright.
There he is. Okay.
Yes, you 100% should research this, because he's been positing universal basic income for, I don't know, it's got to have been, at least 20 years is my guess. And here, I'll bring it up on the screen.
Dude, he's got a wicked head of hair, man.
Yeah, he does. He's
like Simon and Garfunkel.
Man, just ignore it. Just think of it like Bernie shit. Like you look at Bernie, you're like, what the fuck? But
Man,
I'm glad you're here. So
yeah.
What he does is he talks about, this is back in 2006 is when he wrote this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is two redistribution proposals, one for universal basic income and one for stakeholder grants, right? So he's talking about two different ideologies. But he's talking about, and if you go through, we don't have to read this, but every citizen would be given a monthly stipend sufficiently high to provide them with the standard of living above the poverty line. So in Yang's world, Yang says $1,000 a month will help everybody get above the poverty line. I don't know whether that's true or not.
No.
But
it's just below. He's still a capitalist. He wants to incentivize work. So $12,800 a year is considered a poverty line. This is 12,000. You still gotta participate in the job market if you want to get ahead, get out of poverty. You got to work your way out of it still. So that's why he made it 12,000. You're just under the poverty line, just for, I guess, for posterity's sake. I have no idea.
Yeah, but he was not positing getting rid of welfare or anything like that, was he?
No, it stacks on welfare except for cash-like programs, which is like WIC, SNAP, TAMF, and food stamps.
Yeah.
So he's saying if you have cash-like programs, we're going to give you that cash and some more cash. But we're not going to give you that and 1,000 more. It just doesn't add up.
Yeah. But if you lived on welfare and you were getting that, or if you had unemployment, this is an additional income to that.
Yes.
He's
it's
not saying I'm
to,
subtracting that from that.
right. And it's not taxable. So it can't be used against you to disqualify you from other programs like housing.
Yeah. Because that's actually what Trump and his bullshit and all the people that were working with him did not do. And the Biden administration, there you go, there's a positive thing. I'm saying something positive about Biden, weirdly enough. That's what they push through is if you've already done your taxes, redo your taxes. The IRS is going to be reaching out to you because they're going to give you deductions on your unemployment income, which the Trump administration basically ignored.
Right.
That was either it's an oversight because they're fucking idiots and shouldn't have been in power, or they're selfish capitalists trying to ensure that you have to pay some of that back. You can pick which one it is.
Can we pick both? See all the above?
See all of the above. Probably, because it's probably both.
It is. It must be. See your way out.
Have you ever watched the House of Cards show with Kevin Spacey in it before he So House of Cards is very hard to watch because I hate Kevin Spacey now because he's a fucking molester. But if you go back to like the principles of like he was a dastardly motherfucker to get into the presidency and keep the presidency, and like when Trump got in office, House of Cards became irrelevant because everything but the nuclear thing, you like it.
It's all real, man.
And this happened in House of Cards. So like
it's a reality show now.
Yeah, exactly. So you can have C. I'll grant you C. I grant the C. There you go. We'll grant C. But anyway, so like the what I liked about this is that this talks about this guy's been talking about universal basic income, and that's what I'm saying is like my question becomes is obviously Yang didn't just come up with this out of the blue. This is something he's gotten from other sources and kind of built on it because that's how ideas work. You know, Einstein did the same, or not Einstein. Edison did the same thing with the light bulb. It wasn't just like he developed every little piece. He took little pieces and then expanded on them. And that's evolution to some extent, right? You know?
Yeah. Scott Santon is actually the UBI advocate that helped Andrew Yang write his universal basic income policy. This dude's been a full-time UBI advocate living off of a UBI from his Patreon since 2017, I believe. So for 5 years now, he's been advocating full-time for universal basic income and to abolish poverty. That's his thing. So he inspired Andrew Yang, and Andrew Yang reached out to him, and he actually helped him write his actual policies.
Yep. And that's what this is saying is this guy was preaching that universal basic income is a right for all humans. Therefore, it says it's a basic human right. People should be getting these things. And that's one of the Yang policies. Again, I'll probably disagree a little bit with the stackable income type thing, you know, because again, as we've seen, people aren't going to live off that. They're just not going to do it. And the problem becomes is when people are on welfare, you're on welfare for other reasons. So universal basic income doesn't fix everything. If I have to go make $7 an hour, you know, at a working a shit job, am I really going to want to do that? Like, what is the motivation? There's other economic stances and things that we have to take to fix what people are doing so that they don't get caught in that cycle of, you know, like cycle of manipulation.
Yeah. You're being pimped out still.
Yes.
To the overlords, if you will, the Walmart families and stuff. We still subsidize their payroll with welfare when they should be paying $15 an hour.
Yep.
They pay $7.25.
Yep. So now, buddy, you're in the socialist livelihood of Canada. So we all know that they're they're marching compared to us. We're sitting back.
We're dragging our knuckles.
We're dragging. So buddy, you up in Canada, do they have a universal basic income like equivalent?
We don't have no, not an equivalent. I know that there was talk about trying it in Ontario, and I just didn't look at my notes soon enough to remember that I wanted to actually kind of look at that so I could talk about it a little further. Because I thought about it last week and wrote it down. I was like, yeah, I should look into that because we had that discussion, and I knew it was a thing. I know it didn't work.
Did you guys get a monthly stipend during the pandemic, though?
Sort of. It was tied into our unemployment benefits.
Okay.
But yeah, it was. How much was this CERB benefit?
It was like $3,000 a month or something. I saw in Canada.
Up to about 500 a week, so about 2,000 a month.
Okay.
Which I mean, for a lot of people who are not really making a lot, that's fantastic. It's a great starting point. The problem is though, is that I don't believe it was they would deduct your taxes. I think you ended up having to file that, and you would pay the taxes the following year when you filed and everything, which was a big issue that I had because it screws over people on retirement too. I think it's one of the biggest flaws or one of the bigger glaring flaws anyways in our tax and the system that we use to kind of help people live when they've paid their dues to society, or they can't because of health reasons or whatever. But there was, and it has been tied in. I think they even it was for people who were let go due to COVID, basically. So if you weren't in essential services, you did not have to, or you could not work from home, whatever. Basically, that you could apply for this, and this is what you could get. Or if you were unemployed, you could get no, you couldn't get this if you were unemployed. But I obviously, because I've been working full time all throughout, I was not eligible, which I mean is fine, whatever. But there is the eligibility criteria that I just pulled up here from our revenue agency. So they even say right in it, to be eligible for the $2,000 CERB payment, you must have met the following conditions during the period you were applying. So you did not receive CERB or EI benefits from Service Canada within the eligibility. You didn't voluntarily quit your job. You were a resident of Canada, at least 15. You had an employment history, had earned at least $5,000 before taxes in the last year from employment or self-employment or provincial benefit payments related to maternity or parental leave. Your hours were reduced because of COVID. You stopped working because of COVID. You were unable to work because of COVID because you were taking care of somebody. You were paid EI or fishing benefits for at least 1 week of benefits since December of 2019 and used up your entitlement to those benefits. So it has sparked the conversation, and I have seen it happen a little bit more. The problem is that I'm stuck in the middle of conservative utopia of Canada, and I saw a very infuriating dismissal by my premier, who in an interview was asked about it, and literally all he could say was, it's I've heard about it, but it just seems like some weird socialist idea, and carried on. So he doesn't actually know what it is, other than it's something that might actually make him look bad because he wants people to go back to work, and he wants to continue giving billions of dollars to his friends in oil and gas.
Fair enough. So Canada doesn't have that. That's not something that we don't have an equivalent we can look at. And I think, so there is a little opposition, right? And it doesn't always come from the right side to the universal basic income discussion. And one of them is there is an interview that Yang's been a part of. And there was an article written this year about, or last year, I'm sorry, about why some of it why there might be some troubling stances to it. Some of it is because there is a lot of white people who specifically will do things to keep minorities down, right? Now, I don't think that's a valid argument for dismissing universal basic
Wait a
income.
minute. Giving people money is white people holding down minorities?
No. White people will vote against it because of the fact they don't want to see other people come up to the same status they're in.
Oh.
It has nothing to do. It's not universal basic income at its core has nothing to do with race or gender or sex. Nothing. It's everybody gets money. Y'all get it.
Yep.
Like, yeah. If are you a human who has a social security number, you get money. You know.
These fingers in your neck. Do you have a pulse? Okay.
Yeah. And that's the other criticism that has kind of come out a little bit about it is because of the fact that we have a lot of undocumented migrants that live in our country. And what are we going to do about that? Now, here's the problem. We could compound all these things and say, well, we don't want universal basic income, but that's just stupid, right? Because the stupid part of that is the fact that Yang can't solve everything. One policy doesn't solve everything,
right?
And hence why I wanted to look at a larger spectrum of what he believes in, because I think on a whole, Yang has scaled everything down to his mayor position, but it doesn't mean he's changed any of his beliefs. So far, we've seen nothing change compared to what he did when he ran in 2020.
Right.
I mean, unless you could point out something that's different, and I'm open to that. Everything I've read has shown Yang is the same guy. He just said, I'm going to scale it down to the financial economy I can control. That's it.
Yeah, I think the only difference I think he's kind of came towards is universal health care 100% across the board. No questions asked.
Yeah.
Now he's
a better stance to have.
Yeah, and so he agreed with that too. He just didn't like how Bernie's timeline worked out to say, okay, in 4 years, this is how it's going to be, boom, without any cost control. And so he has just, like I say, he's a more pragmatic approach to healthcare. And now during the pandemic, he goes, during the pandemic, 100% everything should be covered, period. Which I think is a good idea, because then why would we stop that? Just like UBI, we should have UBI and healthcare during the pandemic. Then why would we stop it? We shouldn't, in my book. The people are like, why the fuck am I paying premiums again? Because you guys didn't want to get what the hell? You know, it doesn't make sense. So I like that he's come around on that one. But again, I don't agree with him being in a rush to put people back into schools. His thing is K-8. He says, well, the statistics show that the younger kids are not actually the vectors that they thought they would be. They have a lower recidivist. I was like, yeah, but why risk it? That's my question. Why risk it? Don't. Get all these. We got 100 million vaccines coming out by the end of May. Biden says every adult, quote unquote, should have access, which means by the end of July, this summer, every child should be vaccinated as well. Just give up on this year, man. It's over. We didn't fix it. Just
we're behind the 8 ball.
Your losses and do this school year, and at the end of the school year and say, okay, are our kids competent enough to advance a grade? If they're not, man, everybody just stays where they're at and just do it again next year. It's not the end of the fucking world, man. Sorry. It's not another 500,000 people don't have to die to prove a point that, well, it's worth a year of education for our children. Man, get the hell out of here. It's fucking dumb and short-sighted.
No, and you could tell the strain it puts on them, because, you know, like, I asked my kids, are you wearing a mask at recess? Oh, yeah. It's like, yeah, bullshit. And so, yeah, y'all get your little breaks.
And sports, too.
They say they are. But I've driven by those. In Zealand, I've driven by them. And it's like, I mean, in fairness, how is a teacher going to enforce 100 students to wear a mask?
Oh, yeah, I agree.
You can't do that.
Yes. Hell, they'll switch masks with each other. Oh, like your mask. Let me trade your Spider-Man for my He-Man.
Yeah.
Not He-Man.
That's true. That is true.
But they could swap masks just for bullshit.
Yep.
You know,
and
but it is what it is for kids.
Yeah, he's right. The statistics say that they don't, but they also don't say that the statistics don't say they aren't spreaders, because you can't track that statistically as easily. Like it's very hard to contract trace a child who shows no symptoms as the cause of COVID for an adult.
Especially over the past year where no one fucking did it.
Yeah.
Ever.
And so, you know, there's not data to demonstrate that they still aren't carrying, and that's where like the discussion is about vaccines. We're all going to get our vaccines. Are we still going to be contagious to other people? And like my wife and I have argued about this because I'm at the point where like I just want to go out. Let's get vaccines, and I'll go hang out at concerts with people that have vaccines. Like, oh, you got your vaccine? You can go to the concert.
That's
But-
another Yang has a policy on that too for opening up his economy. He wants to have an app, a New York City app that says you get scanned, you get your tickets, and it scans as being, yeah, you're vaccinated. You can go to this concert or this bar or go to Broadway to watch a musical, everything, a bar, restaurant, the whole 9 yards. Like, hey, yeah, you can go in.
But as my wife points out, statistically, we don't know whether we're carriers or not still.
No,
like
we have no data
don't
on that.
know that. We still could be carriers. And think about it. If you are vaccinated but your wife's not, like in my situation is, I'm a waiting list, man. Like I've been trying to get my vaccine for like 3 months, very aggressively trying because all I want is my damn vaccine. And it's more or less so that I don't feel like I'm a risk to my family. Like I have to sometimes take my grandfather to his cancer appointments. You know, you mask up when you walk in the house. You wear a mask in the car. You wear a mask wherever you go. You don't eat with him. You know, like he's got cancer. I don't want his ass to die because I subliminally transmitted COVID to him. You know, that's not fair to him. I mean, he is 86 years old, but still.
Well, that's the thing, though.
Not
We
fair.
don't know how long this vaccine even lasts yet.
And that's part of the problem is that the long-term efficacy of it. Is this going to be like the flu vaccine where we have to get it every year because our immune memory just doesn't last? Because the coronavirus, it's just a type of virus. And there's another famous coronavirus that we deal with a lot that's called the common cold. And our immune memory of the common cold lasts about as long as what everybody thinks a goldfish memory lasts. Because how many colds can we get in a year, right? So there's a bit of a problem there. And it's something that we need to look for in the long term. So we can't just say, okay, well, now we're rolling out vaccines, so okay, it's fine. Everybody just go back to work. Everything's fine. Nothing's wrong. Blah 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 blah. Because it's just we don't know. And if we did do that, and then all of a sudden people started dying en masse, then all of a sudden it's well, why didn't you do more to protect us? Why didn't you put in more policies? And it's like, well, we tried, but you guys fought us, so we just let you go do what you wanted.
But that's the thing. So
So-
I'm vaccinated. I could still be a carrier. I could still get the variant.
Yep.
I could still get
Exactly.
it could wear off. And you don't know if you can't get it twice. We just don't know that. Nick Saban got it twice, guys.
Yep.
Because he's in Bala fucking Bama.
Where they don't care.
Dumbass. Roll your fucking tide, idiots.
So all right. So I don't want to. So there is opposition to him, and really for me, like the only real opposition I have for the most part to a lot of his stances is a capitalist, lean, right? And in an interview that he did, and I believe this is back in 2019, in an interview, and if you give me a minute, I'll bring up the thing. In an interview he did with CNBC, he was asked, he said, you have a particular appeal to young people. What do you want to tell them about capitalism and not socialism, right? And this is where I have a fundamental disagreement, and maybe it's such a surface disagreement because he's using terminology that doesn't mean what it means on purpose, right? To draw people into his campaign.
Yeah, message.
And if that's the case, then whatever. I disagree with him, and I'll argue with him about that, but I'll still vote for him. So what he responded, and this is what he said. He says, what I would say to them is, I get it. That if you come of age in this era and you just see this distorted version of capitalism, this inhuman version of capitalism, you would think, give me anything that's opposite of this. He goes on to say, and so they're being very rational and very sensible. What we can do ideally is channel the energies of capitalism towards our own well-being, towards our own health, our own life expectancy, our own mental health, and our freedom from substance abuse. How clean our air is, how clean our water is, how our kids are doing. And then, if we had different measures aside from the stock market and the GDP, then we could take the best of capitalism and turn it towards things that we all get excited about. So that's the vision of what I call human capitalism that I would pitch to the young people. They followed the question up by saying, okay, so you get it, but you are clearly and affirmatively saying that democratic socialism, like something that is embodied by Bernie and AOC is just flat wrong. It's the wrong model. And his answer was, well, I think I need a positive economic vision that people can get excited about. I do not think pure socialism is that vision. But at this point, I would also think that you need to take the best of both camps to solve the problem.
Exactly. Yeah.
So where I disagree with him in this is still trying to take this ideology, and this is where I'm going to say some of Yang's terminology is the feeling of make America great again. And I know people hate that. But when you tell me that you see a distorted vision of capitalism, I would still challenge you to tell me when capitalism was great for everyone. Because it's never fucking been great for everyone.
No, it's never been. That's why it's a distorted view right now, because what's capitalism good at? Creating capital.
Yep.
So right now, who does capital benefit? The wealthiest people, the 7 families that own 50% of our wealth, which is one of Bernie's talking points. So he's saying let's use what capitalism does. It pools resources and then forcefully make them pay their taxes with a value added tax instead of letting them create loopholes to not pay taxes once a year. Make them pay taxes every quarter with a value added tax, business to business taxes. And then you can fund the universal basic income. So he's saying, I think the way he words that also is to not to demonize people for being what other people would consider good capitalists, quote unquote, the best of the best, like the Amazons, the Walmarts, right? And I would put him and other politicians in that pool too. They're good capitalists because they know how to make fucking money and keep it. Be a politician, you'll be rich. The problem. Think about this. Tulsi Gabbard's one of the poorest members of Congress, and she was worth $500,000. Her and Julian Castro were the 2 poorest, quote unquote, candidates. They were both worth $500,000, and Andrew Yang was worth $1 million. He was the 3rd lowest, and that's sad. A millionaire is the 3rd poorest, quote unquote, of the 26 candidates. But I think he does that to not demonize capitalism, to not demonize capitalists, and not to demonize wealthy people. They're not bad people. It's a bad system, which I kind of disagree on that too, because it's pretty fucked up. I'm mentioning that people have a very big visceral reaction to Dan Price. The guy's a piece of shit when it comes to his relationships with his wife and girlfriends, whatever that was. But he runs a good business model of redistributing wealth within his company, and he grew. So there's people doing good things in a capitalist market. Yes. It needs to be regulated properly. They regulate what we do. Think about it. The stimulus package. You got to go through all these fucking hoops, man. But Wall Street, don't worry about it. Here's $1 trillion. You guys prop that bitch up. Unregulated capitalism is the problem. It's been unregulated. And when the conservatives get in charge, they unregulate everything. Environment, first thing right out the door. Second is going to be taxes. They just automatically do that. So that's a distorted version of capitalism. Well, technically, it's perfect capitalism for capitalists. Yeah, that's what it is.
That's
right. I agree with that. It's capitalism works like it's supposed to right now.
Yeah,
all the capital goes to the top.
And there's never been a time when capitalism has been good for poor people or for the average person ever, because capitalism is not good for those people ever. It never is. It never is.
We are the cogs in their wheel. We're the pawns on their chessboard.
Yes. And hence why we need to, here you go. This is my socialist soapbox. This is why we need to remove capitalism to some extent from the picture. You could still allow capitalism to happen on a low level, but we need to remove like you're saying with the regulations. I say let's go aggressively hard on regulations to some extent, because that's how we remove these top end people. Because if we're kidding ourselves, if these Congress people who are millionaires are not being paid by somebody, are not not figuring out how to get funded somehow. And let me be frank and say, for fuck's sake, if I made $1 million a year, this podcast, we'd have dancing bears on this fucking podcast. So if anybody wants to fucking fund us, I'll fucking...
You don't mean like the porn site, right? Because that's... Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Well, I don't know. Which maybe we'll have
What's
both.
Their rates?
We'll have both.
I mean, if there's enough money involved, yeah, I'll wear any mascot head and dance around otherwise naked. Like,
it's not you or I, because we're capitalists. We could pay for it.
Yeah. But here's my thing though. If you want to get rid of capitalism, replace it with what though? That's I don't understand a better model to generate jobs and to incentivize innovation and technology and progress.
And I don't disagree with you to some extent, right? So what I would disagree. So I'm gonna use you as an example. Can I do that? Do I have permission to use you as an individual as an example?
Absolutely.
All right. Did you get into politics for money?
No.
Are you currently doing a weekly show, a daily show, running a website, and soon to be maybe even running a political campaign for the money?
Yeah. It's not. If I am, it's not working.
I'm just asking.
No.
Is
No.
that your ultimate goal? Is to be like those people and make that kind of money?
No.
Would you turn it down if you were given it?
Turn down the money for what?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
If somebody were like, "Hey, we're going to finance you for $1 million. You're going to make $1 million a year." Would you turn it down?
To do what I'm doing right now?
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not stupid.
Okay. So
Right.
this. So when we talk about capitalism, we see that Boyce individually right here, he just admitted he has a drive. He does all this stuff without the $1 million. Would he take the money if somebody offered it to him? Sure. What the fuck? Why the fuck not?
Yeah.
Would Boyce keep all the money? I don't know. You don't have to answer that. I will
Right.
not ask you to answer that because I don't think that's a fair question to answer because that's a complex. That's a very hard question.
I talk about it all the time, honestly, with my kids. Actually, I try to make them humanists, man. Say I asked them that question. If you won the lottery and you got $1 million a year, literally, we had this discussion. I was like, what would you do? What's the first thing you do? Because that tells me what your priorities are. What's your priorities? I said, what's the top 3 things on your agenda? They said, I'm buying my mom a brand new house and a car. Okay, family's important. I get it. Okay, then I'm gonna buy a brand new pair of Air Mags. They're shoe freaks. My 2 boys are shoe freaks. My other daughter's like, I'm gonna open up an animal shelter. I just want to take care of dogs and cats. Like, she loves animals. And my youngest daughter's like, I'm gonna go to college, be an orthopedic surgeon, and not have to get a job. Like, now I don't have to work through college. She wants to be an orthopedic surgeon. So like that kind of tells me where they're at right now as teenagers is not a bad place. And they asked me that same thing. I was like, first things first, I'm buying a Tesla. Fuck the gas industry. Fuck that whole market. And I'm not going to quit my job. I enjoy my job. I like working with my patients. I won't have to be compelled to do it for 40 to 60 hours a week. But me personally, I would want to help more people and give more people opportunities. And I would literally want to probably adopt a family pretty much and trying to help them pay off their house or some shit or get a house, finance them. Because there's good, hardworking people that have no credit because they have no family history with credit. So they don't know how to fucking manage money or credit. But that's the kind of things I would like to do. Because to me, if you get $1 million a year, you're not rich, you're wealthy.
Yeah.
If you get $1 million a year, you are wealthy.
If you're currently living on less than $100,000 a year, I don't know what you make, but if you're currently living on less than $100,000 a year and somebody hands you $1 million a year, you don't need 900,000 fucking dollars. You don't, because you're currently living on the 100,000.
Yeah, it's not a
would it
neat
be
thing.
nice to have a Tesla? Sure. Would it be nice to finance another family? Okay, so that's going to cost you $200K tops, and it's only going to cost you $200K 1 year, and that's if you buy the top of the line Tesla decked out.
Yeah,
and we're talking like the Tesla truck, motherfucker.
Like, damn right it is.
Yeah,
it's
like
only
the high end.
$60,000 for the high-end Tesla truck.
Yep, and you can get it decked out, do whatever you want for it for
Pimp that
$100,000.
ride. Pimp that ride.
You can. Let's not get into Teslas because I still hate the guy that makes them, but I love the vehicle. And I have to tell I can't tell my kid that, because if my kid listens to this, he's gonna give me shit tomorrow because I've given him shit about Teslas for so many years because I just think Elon Musk is an asshole.
I like the UFC, but I can't stand Dana White.
Yeah, that's true.
It is what it is.
But let's go back to the point. So the point becomes is if you were handed $1 million a year, everything you're doing would not really change that much. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't own a Tesla. You might pay your house off. You missed that. You probably would pay your house off.
Well, I would buy a house. I'm not
buy a house. Okay.
There
you go. Buy a house.
Buy a house, period. I don't own a house. Shit.
Yeah. All right. I did not know that. But
No.
hey, but you know what I'm saying? Like, so there's a few comfort creature things you would do. But I don't. But you're not going to go buy a $700,000 house unless you're going to let people live with you.
No, thank you.
You're going to buy a $300,000 house, maybe
Right.
400 if you're getting saucy.
I'm a
you're
minimalist,
probably-
dude. I'm a minimalist, dude. I could live off of about 30 grand a year, no problem.
There you go. So
Seriously.
So when you say, Chris, I don't know what other system would work for capitalism, and I'm saying right here, I have a guy on my stream right now who's been serious, who's talking to us, having a conversation, and what is he telling me? That he would still do everything he's doing to benefit humanity, and he would only do a little bit more, and then he doesn't know what he would do with the rest of the money. That's what I have a guy on here saying, and what that tells me is there is an alternative to capitalism. Do I have the name for it? No. Can I create the system for it? No, because I'm probably not that smart. Maybe I am. I don't know. Buddy would tell you differently. I mean, he told me before I'm the guy without ideas. So I mean, that's fair, right? I don't know how to solve that problem or how to give you that answer. But I can tell you that there are people like you. There are people like me. There's people like Buddy. Those of us in this community, the labor of love that goes into this type of thing, and people probably just think, hey, we're getting on and bitching for 2 hours a day, or for, in your case, it's, like 10 hours a week. But there's a labor of love that goes into this. I'm not doing this to get famous. I don't do this for the money, obviously. I pay out of my pocket for this show. This costs me money, and it costs me time.
I pay $100 a month.
All right, mine's not
What
that
I
steep,
do.
but I'm not as
It's
fancy
ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But
you know what I'm saying, though.
I don't mind it. Yeah.
You and I, we're all doing this type of stuff, and if we became millionaires all of a sudden, we would just look a little fancier, but we don't need that money per se to live off of. We're not utilizing or stacking that capital because you and I are not true capitalists at our core. You and I are what I would call socialists at our core. We're going to redistribute our wealth to benefit the others. The only reason people become capitalists, and this is the last thing I got to say about this, but people become capitalists because of a fucked up economy, a fucked up world, because of the fact that we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and people are scared of what will happen. Therefore, if I made $1 million and I could take $300K and stick it in a COD and live off the return every year, I would do that because I don't know what my fucking tomorrow is. And if we fix what the fuck is going to happen tomorrow for all the fucking people, you ruin the capitalist mentality, and people now become passionate about what they're passionate about. They're not going to sit on their ass and smoke weed 24 hours a day the majority of the time. They're going to smoke weed a little bit and then go do their job or do something that benefits society. They're going to open an animal shelter. And if your daughter ever does that, let me know. I'll help. I'll be more than happy to donate to that cause, because that's a cause dear to my heart as well.
Yeah,
is
man.
all of the fucking animals out there
We're
that
animal
need
lovers.
love. Yeah. If I had $1 million, there you go. I would buy a ranch, and I would pay people to come to my ranch and play with the dogs and the cats every fucking day. Fuck snakes. I'm not going to take care of snakes. They can all go to hell and die. But I hate snakes with a passion.
I love them.
I hate them.
Same here.
I had a red-tailed Colombian for about 8 years. Got about 7.5 feet long. I fed him a rabbit, bro.
I don't. You could. I'm not opposed to that. I just hate snakes that bad, and I have nightmare. I'm gonna have a nightmare tonight just because we had this conversation.
Fair enough.
Anyway, but that idea. So when you challenge me and say, Chris, what the fuck do we replace this with? And I say we replace it with humanism. You don't need capitalism. We don't genuinely need this, because people will get passionate and create innovative technology. The difference is our technology and our rate of existence. What'll happen is it'll slow down a little bit.
Yeah, it'll be disincentivized without money. This is what it comes down to.
To some extent.
People are fucking greedy, bro.
They are, but not to an extreme extent.
No, not the extreme.
Are not doing this for money. You would not change anything you're doing if you were handed a bunch of money. You're not going to change what you talk about.
Let me correct myself. I build a badass studio.
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay. But you would make it open for other podcasters, and you would put it in Grand Rapids so that way I could come and use it too.
We can kick it.
Yeah, maybe you'll build one in Saskatchewan too. I don't know. Who knows?
Hey, how you doing up there? Yeah.
Okay, but we're going back to my point. You understand when you challenge me and say what would we replace it with, and I say I don't have a name for it other than socialism, because that's the only name I know. Marxism,
Right.
socialism. But I could tell you that there's millions and millions of people that if we can move that needle a little bit farther, what they're gonna do is they're gonna support these type of policies and things because their survival, their basic needs are no longer on the verge of extinction. If they get a medical bill, they don't have to worry about it.
If we have 100% universal health care with no deductibles, no premiums, no out of pocket, if we have universal basic income, basic needs are covered. I have food, shelter, health care. Now I can pursue happiness. If I want to get ahead in life, I can go get a job to get farther ahead in life to acquire assets, to do A, B, and C. But you have the freedom to sit on your ass and play with yourself for free all goddamn day for all I care. Just don't play with mine. Leave mine alone. So that's how I look at it, is a universal basic income pays you to do whatever the hell you want. Make it what pleases you, you should do. That's what people are like push back. Oh, it's socialism because it's going to make you lazy. Dumbass. I'll give you $1,000 right now to quit your job. That's what I tell people all the time. I'll give you $1,000 quit your job right now. And they're like, well, no. I was like, well, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yep.
This is not enough.
Maybe we don't have the answers, but
not yet.
I will argue till I'm dead and gone that capitalism is not the way. It can and should be replaced, and at some point it will be replaced. It's just going to take our society evolving fast, better, and more intelligent than what we currently are.
To me, I will never be happy until there's not a single person that's not homeless. I will not be happy and content or quiet until not a single person has to go to war ever again over our resources. I will never be happy, content, or conservative until then. Because as long as there's homeless people starving to death and working for slave wages, I will never be a conservative. Once shit's okay, I'll be conservative with that. I want to conserve universal basic income as a policy. I want to conserve universal health care as a policy. I want to conserve universal housing as a policy. I'll be a conservative then. Until then, fuck off.
Fair enough.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I agree. So
get me fired up, man.
That's my job. I'm the host. That's
I'm louder than you today for some reason. What the fuck? No.
You're
you're the ranter, man. Come on.
No, we had you on to be the ranter.
There it is.
So you get 2 minutes. Is there anything else about Andrew Yang's policies that we should be adopting? And then we have to move into a quick safe segment, and we have to get out of here because I know you work tomorrow and I work tomorrow. Buddy, Buddy lives in Canada. He doesn't work. They just they do what you say. They play with their pud and smoke weed and drink all day. That's what Canadians do.
You leave my pud out of this.
Getting her, eh?
Do you not have one? Maybe he doesn't have one either. I don't know.
To me, universally, we should be adopting some of his policies of, like I said, legalizing sex work and legalizing all possession of marijuana and all drugs. You have the freedom to do whatever you want to yourself. And lastly, he wants to do is take what's called the Mayor Island and turn it into a casino to generate income for the city. I think that's fucking genius. Take that island and shove it up your ass. Let's make some money and help people. So that's 3 easy policies. Michigan's actually already adopted one of them. We have plenty of casinos here. But that's to help finance indigenous people we stole this land from. That's to me, that's right and a wrong. Those are the big 3 right there. And of course, healthcare has to be on top. Healthcare and basic income, period.
Fair enough.
The end.
The end. There you go. Well, tell everybody real quick where they can find you. What are your sources of material and all of that fancy jazz?
Well, everything's Mindful Skeptics, at Mindful Skeptics on Twitter. Hey, even on TikTok. I make fun of people on there.
Don't get me back on there.
I just do impressions and shit and make fun of Trump supporters. I'm a triggerer. But yeah, it's the trickle-up.com is where I share everyone's content. I've been kind of slacking on that because I've been really overwhelmed, but I try to make that a place to find other platforms like you guys and myself and others that are like-minded, progressive content creators on the trickle-up.com. And of course, the YouTube channel. We have the Trickle Up YouTube channel as well. We do a daily we don't do it daily right now, but I do daily video releases. So we do live streams on Sundays and Wednesday nights or Thursdays, depends on when my other co-host is available. And we do live streams twice a week right now. We make clips every day for that to kind of build a community and try and get some views. So that's what we do on trickleup.com and the Trickle Up YouTube channel. Mindful Skeptics just for fun for me right now. Shits and giggles.
Fair enough. All right, so let's move on to our quick saves, and Boyce, don't feel pressure. If you have one, send it to me in the thing. If you don't, not a big deal. Buddy is posted his life with cats.
This guy?
So Boyce, I don't know if you listened last week. 2 weeks ago, my wife and I adopted another cat, a kitten. She's 2.5 months old. And because of the way the first time we tried to introduce a new cat into our family went, I decided I would try to be a little more thoughtful and a little more aware and do a little more digging into, making sure that I was doing my due diligence and providing a good environment to raise a young kitten. Well, Jackson Galaxy happened to be one of the channels that came up and gave me a bunch of great videos. And the one that really was important for me is he was one of his fans or subscribers had written in asking about, is this particular video of my cats playing? Is this, damage? Is this not? Is this, are they just playing? Are they fighting? Blah, blah, blah. And he goes through and he says, and he shows the video and he goes, okay, so I want you to notice these particular behaviors in the video. You see, the young one after it yips, it kind of walks away and then it comes back. And if you notice how, its ears aren't pointed forward or pointed backwards and it's not completely agitated, that's playful. That's, there's nothing wrong there and all of that. Just because I have a Maine Coon cat and it's a big cat.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know his own strength and he had never dealt with any creature that was really smaller than him other than the old cat that hates his guts. So having that knowledge and just looking at some of his videos really helped me kind of get an idea of, okay, so my cat is actually loves this kitten, thinks the world of it, and he's actually, he's not hurting her. He's just, playing with her and fostering her instincts and all of that. And I really liked it. I did end up finding a bunch of other videos from other people, but his channel was the one that supplied, I think, the most videos overall. So if you're a cat owner or if you want to be a cat owner, give him a look. He's pretty friendly. He's pretty warm, not quite a Bob Ross-esque voice, but he's pretty easy to listen to. And, he doesn't make you feel bad about yourself if you make mistakes. And I think that's kind of important too. So like I said, if you are a cat owner or if you want to be a cat owner, give Jackson Galaxy's YouTube channel a shot.
Yeah, and did you watch his video at all?
Which one?
The main one that's on here?
No.
So it's like a galaxy to cat lovers. Like, so this is it's like his take on the like your guide to the galaxy 2000 whatever, 2001.
The Space Odyssey.
There you go. Well, that's it.
No, it's the Traveler's Space Guide or some shit, right? That book.
Yeah.
Oh, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
There you go. That's what I'm thinking of.
Hitchhiker.
Anyway, it's just kind of funny because he kind of poses it as that. He talks about Campland, talks about people, how he how to help your cat become more accustomed to things. And I watched this and we can't have cats because of my wife. She's like deathly allergic to cats, so we can't have that. But I just thought that video was very interesting, and I didn't know he actually he does all these huge things with people.
He does have product lines out as well.
Capitalist.
Yeah. Welcome to hell.
Yeah, I'm allergic to cats too. I can't mess with them.
But it is. It's and he everything he does is for a good cause, though. In fairness,
Yeah.
Yes, is he lining his own pocketbook? Yes, but he is helping. He is helping the feline, populace too.
There's people like him. There's people like Steve Irwin that really did great things with what they've done. So they took the capital and they redistributed it for activism. And I commend anyone that does that. Yeah, here's my quick save, guys. Deb Haaland is the first Native American woman or person at all, citizen, in a cabinet position in the United States of America, which is kind of gross, considering they've been here for a while.
Longer than us.
Longer than us.
So I think this is one of the best appointments by Joe Biden because this is the most appropriate one. She was an underwhelming senator or congresswoman from New Mexico, honestly. She's very centrist in her political views, but when it comes to taking care of the Secretary of Interior with all of our public lands, you're damn sure she's going to take care of it because this is the motherland for her people. And I think this is the smartest move and most I'm delightfully surprised by Joe Biden doing some nice things and some right things here and there. A lot of dumbassery, but sprinkled some really good decisions here and there, man. So I got to commend him for that. I compliment Trump once in a while. I got to compliment Biden sometimes too. But to me, this is the best hire he made in his whole cabinet.
Yeah. And we actually went through for a while a lot of policy positions and cabinet picks that he was doing. And then we kind of gave up because it's like, and everything feels very underwhelming for the most part. But the underlying thing is he wasn't picking just anybody that was a corporate capitalist that could fit into the boat. The majority of the people he was picking were up and comers, were people that had not made a big splash. And their politics aside, they were here to do the job versus being here for the paycheck. And that's
I'm going to push back on that a little bit because most of them were just a ladder rung down on the political scale because they were all like the deputy director, now they're the director, and they're the assistant, now they're da. A lot of that shit happened.
I'll give you the link. You go back, you critique it. You could do it on your show.
I've done it
critique
too.
us on your show, and then we'll do a rebuttal video to you in a couple of weeks. That's how it works. We're gonna get some beef going here.
No, I did some deep dives on some of that, especially like his communications team. I mean, I think it's cool. It's all women. That's awesome. But most of them are just upgrades of what their previous position was with the Biden administration or the Obama administration.
Yeah, but okay. For example, the EPA person that they picked and the group of people that they had were not just upgrades. They were people that have the background and the expertise for what is needed, which is what we have not seen. Yeah,
I'm not saying all of them. I'm just saying like half of them are just they give them all a pay raise and say, okay, you get the next job up the rung. Keep doing your job like a good little boy and girl.
We won't agree to disagree because I don't believe in that. But
I'm not a fan of Biden.
We'll agree to have a beef videos in the next month. So look for it. We're gonna have beef videos from Tanner and Boyce here. I'm all for beef videos. Let's bring it on.
I
love beef videos. I love that.
Not live stream making a steak.
All right, so my quick save is a self-sustaining floating continent that cleans the ocean waste. And I'll be honest, I did not pick it because of its title.
How old is that article?
I'll just be frank. This article is from February.
Yeah, I want that link. I'm going to look into that.
Okay. It was really cool, and I'm very sad Hannah needed a night off because this was like, hey, Hannah, I did some engineering stuff. Like, this is a really good article. Like, I love this. But no, what was really exciting to me was just this picture. That's what drew me to this whole article. This picture showed up on something, I don't remember what it wasn't on Reddit. It was on it was my Twitter feed. This showed up, and I clicked on it, and it took me to Reddit, and then I found the Reddit article, and then I started digging in. So I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. If this is a real thing, this is like amazingly cool. And so what they did is it's created by Lenka, and I'm not even trying to say her last name, Petra. There you go.
Petrakova.
There you go. Good enough. The design collects ocean debris and breaks it down to be recycled, right? And this is a concept that we could have as a floating station. And this looks like something out of a Marvel movie. Seriously. Like, that's what I thought of when I first saw it.
a
And I
layer.
was kind of excited because I thought that we were getting a new Marvel movie I didn't know about. But
Ooh,
no.
and it collects, and it also does tidal energy production.
Yes.
That's
yes.
cool.
Yep, and has living quarters for people. I mean, and that picture is even cooler. I'm sorry. It's just insane. I would love to work on that.
This
right?
kind of reminds me of like the Protoss from StarCraft.
Yeah. Actually, yes, kind of.
Just that.
So, yeah.
That whole,
Yeah, so essentially this concept is not obviously come to life yet, but the idea is it's going to be self-sustaining and it will help essentially clean the ocean up of all the garbage that we've been putting in there. It works off solar panels, it has greenhouses, and, you know, I don't know. To me, here you go, Elon Musk, if you want a new pet project, there you go, buddy. Like,
Yep.
I hate your
Tesla
capitalism,
Island.
but I love that.
Tesla Island.
Yeah, Tesla, whatever. Call it whatever the fuck you want.
Pre-Mars.
Give it to me.
Pre-Mars.
I don't know.
We just go live there for 2 years. It's the journey to get there. Whatever.
What is it?
Like it takes you 4 months to get to Mars. You guys, the idea is a manned mission or woman, whatever the fuck term is. To go to Mars, it would take like 2 years to go there, establish the infrastructure, and fly back and reload and back and forth with their rockets. It's like a 2-year mission.
Yeah, because it takes forever to get to that.
4
that
months
stance.
one way.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, that's our show for tonight. Thank you, Boyce, for joining us. If you want to check Boyce out, you can head over to thetrickleup.com and you can find all of their content. Make sure you go to thetrickleup.com. They have links to all of their shows. Sometimes we post on there if we're good about it. Sometimes we're very busy with work too. My work's gone off just insane crazy. So I don't know, which is a good thing, right? It's a good thing that we're all busy. We need the economy to come back a little bit. But so I think it was a good discussion tonight. We have some follow-up beef videos to do about some Biden stuff. And I don't know, you in on this, buddy? You in on this?
I'm down for some beef.
All right. What if we do it with some music behind it? Like, I'm not gonna rap. I will quote some poetry and go on a rant. I will go on a rant. We'll do like rant-tastic. It'll be like rant-tastic coming at you.
I'll do ASMR ranting, capitalism,
No,
and everything I know about it.
There's a happy little tree right over there.
No, because I can't get angry with ASMR. I just can't do it. I don't know how you get angry over it.
I have a technique then.
You do. And, yeah. Anyway, so expect some beef videos to come out. Oh my god, I can't believe we're committing to this. This sounds like I had a conversation with my buddy. We had a bonfire this weekend, and we were outside, and he was telling me about a story about how he has underwear from his stepfather when his stepfather passed away. And he wears them, and I was like, that's not for me. And he's like, oh yeah. I was like, what would be fun? What are you gonna do if I pass my underwear on to you? He's like, well, I'd wear them as long as they're not whitey tighties. And I was like, well, I don't wear whitey tighties, but my dad does. So I'm gonna gift you all of my dad's whitey tighties. And he's like, you're an asshole. I'm gonna throw them in a fire and burn it and make a video to show you I burned your donation. And so we went back and forth on that whole thing because neither one of us wear whitey tighties because I don't know who does that anymore.
We're adults.
I don't know. You just don't wear that type of underwear. It seems weird to me, I guess. So we had an hour-long conversation about why people wear that type of underwear and why the two of us both have worn it. But anyway, thank you all for joining us. Have a good night. We'll be back next week with another Cellar Door Skeptics right here, 10 p.m. Monday, 10 p.m. Eastern, every Monday on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you, and have an amazing night.